Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Raddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us on this beautiful morning. We're very pleased to have in the studio Jay Webb. He's Metro Director of the West Metro Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Steve. Thank you for having me, buddy.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. Full disclosure, Jay came in on short notice, and that was my fault, but he rose to the occasion, and I'm grateful for that.
Glad to be here.
I assume that most people, that's an assumption, know what FCA is. So why don't we just get started with what does FCA stand for? How many schools do you cover? Just a little overview.
Yeah, no, we could talk about FCA all day. So FCA stands for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We were just talking. We've been around as an organization since 1954. We are a nonprofit ministry, 501c3, but here locally, our mission is to lead every coach and athlete into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and His church, and that's our mission. So we believe that the largest local mission field is the local school campus, and so we get to walk on 58 campuses here in the 48 states that we serve.
The continental U.S.
Yeah, the continental U.S. No, the four counties that we serve, which is Carroll, Douglas, Haralson, and Heard counties. So we're on 58 campuses on those four counties, and just taking Jesus to the public school campus, which is an incredible mission.
With that many campuses, you're obviously not doing it by yourself. Who's helping you?
You are right about that. No, we are blessed. I think the last time I was in here on the Community Voice was 8 years ago.
Whoa!
And it was Jeff Hughes, myself, and Mike Wall, and that was the three of us. That we were it. We were serving 9 high school campuses in the West Georgia area. And now we fast forward 8 years. Jeff is playing more golf and has handed off the leadership responsibilities to me. And now we're actually up to 14 staff, including myself. And so there's 13 other FCA staff people, and all of those serve in some full-time, some part-time, some very specific elementary ministry, FCA wrestling, community sports, some serving campuses. So 14 staff that are all doing very different things.
Well, I promise to have you back before the next 8 years.
There you go.
Okay. Shit. God, talk about making the host feel bad. Anyway, now y'all do have an office though here locally, right?
We do. Yeah, we
That's
are
in Bremen.
We're up in Bremen, right next to Gateway Printing. And one of our staff members, Amy Pointer, her husband owns Gateway and had that building right next. And so, we've actually got a 4,000 square foot building up there that we share with 913 Athletics, and that's a training facility for baseball, softball, and so that thing is rocking most of the time. We get people walking into our facility where they get better at their sport, but they also get a little Jesus while they're in there too. So.
I got a ton of questions before we kind of get into that. I'm kind of led to ask you. I assume you were an athlete, growing up, or
something like that.
How did the Lord lead you to this spot?
No, I love sports. Was just a basic high school athlete. I was an offensive lineman at 5'11", 215 pounds. So I wasn't going very far in the sport of football at that size, being a lineman. So, but just had a passion for sports. My dad coached me my entire life. I saw the influence of a coach very young. Matter of fact, my dad passed away 9 years ago, and his pallbearers were all players of his. And so I just saw the influence of a coach, and so I've always had a love for sports and a love for Jesus. No intention at all. FCA, when I was in high school, was a club that met once a month, and it just meant I got out of class one day a month to go to it. And so, but I was going to plant a church and reached out to Jeff Hughes 9 summers ago, and he asked me to come serve at a football camp, and we'll talk about camps in a little bit. I served at football camp 9 summers ago, and the Lord dropped something in my heart that day that just has blossomed and a seed planted, and here we are 9 summers later, and doing this thing full time and love every minute of it.
We're going to take a break and come back and we'll talk about camps and coaches and coaching and all that. But I had a friend of mine just about a week ago. he said to me, Steve, I really think there's a revival going on among Generation Zers. Mm-hmm. And as a baby boomer who got frustrated with millennials, you can imagine me and Generation Zers. Have you seen any evidence that there's a revival among the young teens and I guess early 20s?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd say about a year and a half ago, God dropped something in my spirit. It's funny that you asked that. And we kind of started, speaking of millennials and Generation Zs, we started hashtagging revival is not coming, revival is here. And we've seen that the last year and a half or two. I think coming out of COVID, to be honest with you, we saw a lot of students who didn't know what to do. They a lot of what they love were taken away. And so we saw people really digging in and students really digging in during those times. And I think from that, even us as ministry really changed how we did things. We had to go from kind of this approach of just kind of bouncing around and seeing as many people as we could to really taking advantage of and going deeper with the students that were willing to go deeper with us. And out of that, we saw a ton of high school students really start leading. We are at a point in our ministry that we've never been before where truly, man, we just kind of facilitate and we watch the students lead. At most of our huddles, it is not adults speaking. We have our students speaking. A big part of that for us is we started right out of COVID something called Worship on the Lawn, where we couldn't do the huddles in the school, so we were trying to get students together. And so we real creative in our naming there. We had a worship service on the lawn, so we called it Worship on the Lawn. And in that, we started seeing students giving testimonies and leading worship. And, man, they were taking us to places that us adults never could take them. And so, yes, I have seen that in a mighty way. We are in great hands. I know the media will make us think that the world is falling apart, and a lot of it is. But, man, we've got some incredible students right here in West Georgia that are leading well. And are really falling in love with Jesus, and that is fun to see.
I think the key phrase in there is going deeper.
Yes,
because all the church just needs to go deeper.
Yeah, we say it often. You can't have discipleship without relationship. And so that 14 staff that we talk about and the volunteers that we have, our sole purpose is to build a relationship with these coaches and athletes. And when relationship happens, discipleship happens. And it's fun to be a part of.
Jay Webb is Metro Director of West Metro Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We've got plenty to go with Jay, and we're on Facebook Live. Stay with us, but first these words.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
I'm Michael Flynn, Oak Mountain Academy class of 1978.
Katie Flynn, class of 2010.
Justin Flynn, class of 2014.
Logan Flynn, class of 2019.
And I'm Marnie Flynn, current teacher at OMA.
My uncle Richard Orm Flynn, a founding father of Oak Mountain Academy, had a vision to see students become confident leaders who hold a faith-based value system in an academically rigorous environment. We are proud to celebrate 60 years of fulfilling my uncle's vision.
Our family invites you to visit the campus or oakmountain.us today.
Billy Graham said once, a coach will impact more people in 1 year than most people will in a lifetime. How true is that, Jay Webb?
So true. I think I just mentioned the impact that my dad, not just as my coach, had on me, but so many other people in this area. And he was just a rec ball coach, and not even really a high school coach. But, I think coaches, a big part of our ministry, I hear this often, man, y'all, we thank you for what you do in impacting these young people. And we do. We love impacting young people. But our ministry starts with a coach. Our number one strategy is to and through the coach, meaning that if we can disciple a coach, how many more students can that guy or girl disciple. They're with them. Man, sports now are year round almost, and so these coaches are with these athletes all the time. And so if we can find a coach that truly loves Jesus and understands their purpose and the platform they have, the reach and the eternal impact that they have on a player is really immeasurable. And so we spend so much of our time investing into coaches because we know that the return on investment in that is so much bigger than us just trying to find a couple students and do a pregame devo or things like that. So how do we do that? I mean, we are very intentional with coaches Bible studies, marriage retreats. We've been doing a coaches marriage retreat now for a couple years on our own over in Chaco Springs. So we've got 15 to 20 coaching couples that come over every January, and we just pour into them and invest in their marriages and their lives. And we tell them there that their number one team is their home team. If they are failing at home in their marriage or in their parenting, then what they do on the field does not matter. And so we have coaches camp coming up here in a couple of weeks, one of our favorite times of the year, coaches and family camp down at St. Simon's Island. So we'll have 400 coaches from all over the state of Georgia down there in St. Simon's here, GHSA Dead Week, 4th of July week, just for that reason, to pour into coaches because they mean so much and their impact is so big.
Sports by its very nature, competitive, good sportsmanship, hard work, dedication, perseverance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the coach can impart a lot of those values to the athlete.
Yep,
correct.
That's right. And one of the things that we use in our ministry, we've just recently changed it to 360 coach, but it started out as 3D coach, 3-dimensional. And what that is there's 3 dimensions of coaching. One, and when I played, I graduated Central 2001, so I played football just over 20 years ago. But even then, a coach just had to coach on the first dimension, which was physical. Teach you the X's and O's, make sure you're in good shape, make sure that you're ready for game night, for under the lights, that kind of thing, because the parent took care of everything else at home. Mm-hmm. If I messed up on the football field and I went home and told my dad, Coach, Dad, I had to run today, my dad was going to say, well, what'd you do wrong here? You go run for me too. Now we see that that's not the case as much. So a coach has to coach not only the first dimension, but the second dimension, which is the mind. You have to the emotions of a player. You have to really connect with a player before you can correct a player, right? If a player doesn't trust you now, they're not going to do what you say. And so a coach really has to work to emotionally connect with a student before he can really coach them. And then the third dimension is the heart, and that's where we really try to come in. Is if a coach can coach on all 3 levels, 3 dimensions, man, then that coach is making a impact that goes far beyond wins or stats or huddle film that we talked about. And so that's really our goal, is to say, how do we get a coach from coaching just on the first dimension to coaching in all 3 and really coaching a player's heart, because that's what will last way past high school, or maybe somebody gets lucky and goes college or pro level. So
yeah, and hopefully for all eternity.
Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned camps. So you've
Yes.
got a power camp starts tomorrow at Midway Church, but it's rising second and through 6th graders.
Mm-hmm.
What in the world's going on there?
Oh, that's a good question, Steve. I don't know what we were thinking. No, about 4 years ago, we got into FCA Elementary. That was a new part of ministry for us, and so we are now in 18 elementary schools in the West Georgia area. That we have a huddle once per month. They've got a little leadership team. So out of that elementary ministry came Power Camp, and that is what that is. It's a small sports camp for elementary age students, and we bring them in. You talk about students revival. We lean into our high school and middle school student leaders to really be a part of that camp with us, to help facilitate the activities, but more than that, to help share the word and worship. So they get sports and fun, but they also get Jesus, and at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to bring them. So this is our 3rd year now of Power Camp, and this year we went to a 1-day only, so we're going to go all day at Midway Church tomorrow. I'm actually leaving here. As soon as we leave here, go to set up for it, and it'll be a fun day.
you've more than once you've used the term huddle.
Yes.
What in the world?
Yeah.
Well, how do you
That's,
use
that's
it?
an athletic way of saying a group that meets. so a huddle is just simply, if it's a team huddle, that's when we're doing a devotional with a team. A multi-sport huddle is where all the people come together before school. A coaches huddle. It's just our way of saying our meetings, our Bible studies or group gatherings. We call them huddle because it's FCA and we got to make it sound athletic, right?
Exactly. Okay. Well, all that sounds good. Let's go ahead and take another break. We've got a whole lot more to talk about with Jay Webb, and I want to. Apparently, you mentioned the elementary students, but there are other things that FCA is doing.
Absolutely.
It's a big organization. But first, let's take a break, and we'll be back with more with Jay Webb after this.
Believer in the power of education.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
I'm Michael Flynn, Oak Mountain Academy class of 1978.
Katie Flynn, class of 2010.
Justin Flynn, class of 2014.
Logan Flynn, class of 2019.
And I'm Marnie Flynn, current teacher at OMA.
My uncle Richard Owen Flynn, a founding father of Oak Mountain Academy, had a vision to see students become confident leaders who hold a faith-based value system in an academically rigorous environment. We are proud to celebrate 60 years of fulfilling my uncle's vision.
Our family invites you to visit the campus or oakmountain.us today.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gradick, your host. We got Jay Webb in studio, Metro Director of West Metro Fellowship of Christian Athletes, serving 4 counties, Carroll, Douglas, Haralson, and Heard County. And apparently, what? Look at this number. This can't be right. 89,323 camp participants.
Yeah, that's a global number.
Okay, that's a global number.
Yeah, that's a global number there for all of FCA.
But you've got record numbers here in your area for camps. They're an important part of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
What FCA is doing, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. A big part. A lot of people think in summers, what do the FCA people do? School's not in. So we take a vacation for 2 months. No, camps are a big part of what we do. I mentioned it earlier. It's the reason I'm with FCA. That same camp that I went and served at 9 years ago was football camp over at the University of West Georgia. I now have the pleasure of serving as the director of that camp, and so it's just kind of been a full circle thing for me within this ministry. But yeah, we do camp. So we have Power Camp coming up tomorrow. I mentioned in just a couple weeks we have a coaches and family camp. We do a leadership camp where we take some of our leadership students down to St. Simon's, and they spend a week with about 400, 500 other students from around the state. And it's all part of empowering them to lead on their campus. The big things we do here, and we're a big part of with our West Metro team, are our team camps at University of West Georgia. And in just a few short weeks, about a month out from now, we will host a softball volleyball camp. So we'll have about 400 girls come in for softball volleyball camp. They come in as teams, compete as teams, and then And then at night we have worship time and a word for them, and huddle times where they get together and kind of talk about what they've learned through the day, a great team bonding time for them. And then right after that, we'll have about 2,000 football players come in to the University of West Georgia for 2 sessions of football camp. And that is the largest camp in the nation for FCA that we host right here at West Georgia.
So those are college players?
These are all high school players. So It's a high school camp that we host.
But you're bringing...
We're bringing them from all over the state.
Okay.
Actually, we've got a few from outside the state this year. So they come in from all over the state, come in right here to West Georgia, and they have 3 days of football. But they also, again, just like softball, volleyball, they get the word, they get worship, they get some Bible study times with their teammates. And really, we got a lot of teams that, they've been coming to this thing. This is 17 years we've been doing this at West Georgia.
So this is probably very early in the morning to very late at night?
Very early in the morning.
How early?
Those are breakfast. The first breakfast group gets to breakfast at the Z6 at West Georgia at 6:15 a.m. And so as the director, my days look like up at 5 and in bed about 1 a.m. So it's a gauntlet of about 12 days for us as FCA staff, but we love it, and the lives that are changed from that. I love, probably one of the favorite parts of the ministry I get to do is to run into somebody that's in their late 20s, early 30s, even 50s and 60s that say, I gave my life to Christ at an FCA camp. And they still remember that. They remember that moment in their life where their eternity was secured. And, man, that happens to me all the time. And that just goes to show you the impact that this ministry's been having for a really long time.
Speaking of a really long time, 8 years ago when you were here last, I think I asked how welcoming are the school campuses to FCA? What's the current status?
The climate here, I say this often, we are in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt.
I've never heard it called the buckle. Actually, I've heard
well,
the belt.
Yeah, well, we're the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. Okay. We're at the center, and so I say that to say we are welcomed really, really well. The administration. Now, I will say this: we do things the right way. Mm-hmm. We do. There are freedoms that we have.
And there are more freedoms than people realize.
There is, and it's and most of it is about being student-led and the times of the day that you do it and being outside contract hours and all that. And so the administration in this area, they know that we're going to do things the right way and that we're going to do things to protect them. And so we have those freedoms to walk on these campuses because we're doing it the right way. Now, I will say this, I have been a part of a lot of leadership things within FCA, and some of my counterparts that may be serving in New York City, their freedoms are not there as much, and that's not to call out that one area. There's other areas within the country that it's just a little tougher to get in. We are blessed here in West Georgia to have the access that we do onto the campuses, and it's because we truly do take pride in protecting those administrators and coaches and doing the things the way that they're supposed to be done. And as long as we do that, I think we'll continue to have that access.
It's always been there, peer pressure. It seems to be different, worse now because of social media and, a council culture and all kinds of things. So what if a young person does come out on campus and express their faith and take a stand for Christ? What kind of repercussions or persecution could possibly they endure?
It's tough, and we mentioned it earlier. I mean, these cell phone things that we have in our hands make life. I'm glad I didn't have them when I was a teenager. But these kids are resilient, and I would say there's really 2 parts to our ministry. I think there's the evangelism side of our ministry. You see a lot in the camps where we know we're going to have students in there that may not ever step foot into a church, and we're going to give them the gospel, and we're going to give them an opportunity to make a decision for Christ, and we're going to do everything in our power to follow up with them and build a relationship with them to disciple them. The other part of our ministry is when we meet in a club huddle, FCA club that meets on Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning or whatever the day is of the week. A big part of that is those are church kids coming to that campus huddle, if you will. Because most people, if they don't love Jesus and love church, they're probably not going to get up and get to school 30, 45 minutes early to, I don't care what kind of Chick-fil-A biscuit you bring in, right? They're just not going to get up early. And so a big part of what we do is we provide this platform for students who do love Jesus, who do have a relationship with him, to come together on the school campus and to know who their counterparts are that believe the way that they do. And it's encouraging to them. It's empowering to them. To be able to say, hey, man, I know that guy right there or that girl right there, they believe the same way I do. We're trying to walk this life together, and I need some accountability with some people in my classroom. So does it make it easy? No. And a big part of what we do is in our team huddle ministry, where we're going to the teams and sharing devotionals and doing pregame devos and things like that. We're reaching people that do not step into a church. And
the majority of people, and even in the buckle of the belt,
don't go.
They
don't go. And so that's where we take pride in stepping. We get to go on to what I call, and I've said it, the largest local mission field. And I get to go. I personally serve Bremen High School football and Carrollton High School wrestling. That's the two teams that I serve. They won't let me serve anymore. I'll mess it up. And so I serve those two. But, man, that's where I get to step into their atmosphere, onto that football field or that wrestling mat, and build relationship with students that do not go to church or don't know Jesus. And I've learned that when you build a relationship with them, when they have an issue, when there's something going on at home, when there's, God forbid, a life tragedy happen in their life, the first person they're coming to is the FCA guy, because I've stepped into their world.
Sure.
They're not stepping into church on Sunday mornings. And so that's why we love to do what we get to do, is because we get to step into their world and bring the hope of Jesus. And do they run with it all the time? Absolutely not. A beautiful. I've baptized and led people to Christ 3 or 4 years after they get out of high school, because they remember that was I remember that FCA guy. He showed up every week for something, and now I get it. And so that's fun and very rewarding in what we get to do.
Well, we're very proud that our Rejoice 89.1 station has a good, strong relationship with West Metro FCA. We hope that we plan on that continuing for another 8 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if people want to learn more, they want to reach out, they want to be supportive of FCA, how should they go about it?
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing you can do is go to westmetrofca.org. You go there, you can see what our ministry is doing, meet our staff. You can support us. We are a 501c3, so every one of those 14 staff that I mentioned every one of them are local missionaries. We have to raise our own support, and so we depend on the support of individuals, churches, businesses, fundraisers, things like that. So you can always go to westmetrofca.org. You can find out everything you need to know about our ministry, how to get involved. We need volunteers. We need, in order to build more relationship, we need more people, and we serve a lot of campuses, and so you can serve, you can give, and you can pray. Those are the three things that we ask that people do for us. All three, or one of the three would be great with us. So check us out, westmetrofca.org, and that sounds a lot like that Rejoice 89.1 commercial I've been doing forever.
And keep it up.
Yes.
And we'd like to do a quick shout out to Jeff Hughes.
Jeff Hughes, yeah. Y'all pray for Jeff. He's going to be at this power camp too, so he's got to deal with these elementary kids for the next day. So,
our gratitude this morning to Jay Webb, Metro Director of West Metro Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Thank you again for coming in.
Steve.
We'll have you back before another 8 years
Perfect.
passes.
Sounds great.
Thank you, and God bless, and thank y'all for listening to the Community Voice here on WLBB Carrollton.